Picture this. You wake up in the absolute dead of night. The room is pitch black. It's totally silent, but the air just feels heavy. You try to sit up to check the time, but you can't. Your body completely refuses to respond. You are paralyzed. And then, as your eyes adjust to the darkness, from the deepest corner of your bedroom, a shadow actually begins to move towards you. And it's not just a trick of the light. It has a shape. It has intent. Okay, take a breath. Today in this explainer, we are exploring one of the most terrifying shared global phenomena that has haunted humanity for literally centuries. We're going to unpack the ancient folklore, the abject, gripping terror, and ultimately we're going to gut the legend to look at the fascinating, undeniable science of what actually happens when our own brains turn against us. Get ready, because we are diving deep into the mystery of shadow people.
To really understand how terrifying this is, I want you to hear this visceral, real-world account from a man named Luke Purdy. He's describing an encounter he had when he was just a little kid, only 6 years old. He said, "I couldn't move. All I remember is trying to scream, but there was this horrible weight on my chest." He woke up absolutely frozen, only to find a towering hooded figure just looming over his bed. Now, what is truly chilling about Luke's story isn't just the sheer terror of that specific moment. No, the craziest part is the fact that this exact hyper-specific scenario has been described by thousands, if not millions, of people throughout human history. It's like everyone is having the exact same nightmare while completely awake.
If you're listening to this right now and thinking, wait, this happened to me? The very first thing you need to know is that you are not alone in the dark. Literally, you're not crazy. This is an incredibly common phenomenon reported by millions of completely unconnected people worldwide. I mean, we're talking from Argentina to Australia, from the 1800s to, honestly, probably somebody last night. Unrelated people describe the exact same paralyzing dread, the same suffocating, crushing pressure on their chests, and the exact same dark entities. People very often think they're literally losing their minds when this happens, but the sheer volume of identical reports tells us that something much more universal, and as we'll see, deeply biological is going on here.
Okay, so let's dive into exactly what it is people are seeing in their rooms. Researchers and investigators who collect these accounts have actually been able to categorize the specific types of shadowy entities people frequently report. It's almost like a field guide to nightmares. These entities range from the seemingly harmless to the downright malevolent. First, we have what they call benign shadows. These ones just kind of seem to walk past the bed like they're on a casual stroll, barely noticing you. But then you have the negative or noisy shadows, and these bring a feeling of unnatural, suffocating terror. It gets more specific and much more frightening with the red-eyed shadows and the hooded shadows that look like ancient monks and seem to actively feed off the experiencer's fear. And finally, there is one highly specific, absolutely baffling entity that has become a worldwide legend all of its own. They call him the Hat Man.
Now, before we get to the science, we have to look at what people actually believe is happening to them. When we look at polling data from people who have directly encountered shadow people, the results are pretty staggering. Just look at the overwhelming majority here. 47% of experiencers actually believe these are beings from entirely different dimensions. Another 21% believe they are literal biblical demons, and 16% think they're ghosts. Only a tiny, tiny fraction, right around 13%, attribute this to a psychological or medical disorder. And you know what? When the experience is so visceral, so physically real to the person lying there trapped in bed, it is completely natural that their mind immediately jumps to the supernatural. Because in that moment, the terror feels entirely external. It feels like an invasion.
And this shared global terror really culminates in the most enigmatic figure of them all, the one we mentioned earlier, the Hat Man. This is an incredibly common shadow silhouette, always dressed in a wide-brimmed fedora or sometimes a vintage top hat. And he's often wearing a long trench coat. And he's reported by totally unrelated individuals globally. Just really think about that for a second. Why would a businessman in Japan, a high school teenager in Ohio, and a grandmother in Portugal all hallucinate the exact same silhouette of a man wearing a 1930s style hat? Make it make sense, right? Some experiencers say he just stands silently in the doorway, just observing them, while others claim he brings this profound, heavy sense of impending doom. The Hat Man has basically become a viral urban legend today, but his roots actually go back decades in documented, handwritten reports.
Because these encounters are just so visceral and terrifying, humans have obviously been trying to explain them for millennia, way before modern medicine or sleep clinics even existed. To explain the darkness, this incredibly rich tapestry of supernatural lore has evolved across the globe. In Islamic traditions, for example, these entities are very often described as jinn, causing spiritual oppression. Some Native American traditions, like the Cherokee, speak of skibli. These are shamans or witches who essentially use bad medicine to take on a dark, monstrous, shadowy form and attack other people spiritually in the night. Other cultures view them as literal harbingers of death, kind of like the three shadow sisters in Apache lore. Across the board, humanity has painted these shadows with the brush of our deepest, oldest spiritual fears. We use the vocabulary of monsters because it was all we had.
But here is where we are going to execute a very sharp pivot. We are going to completely destripa la leyenda. We're going to gut the legend right here and look at the crisp, authoritative science behind the horror. So the absolute crucial point, the key to this whole mystery is this definition right here: sleep paralysis. The term itself was first coined by doctors back in 1928, that the actual experience is as old as humanity itself. It is defined as a transitional state occurring during the process of falling asleep or awakening, where an individual is conscious but temporarily unable to move or speak. So, spoiler alert, this isn't a ghost story at all. It's a parasomnia. It is literally a glitch in the incredibly complex, usually reliable machinery of human sleep architecture.
Let's actually break down step by step how your brain gets hacked by its own neurochemistry, turning a perfectly normal, peaceful sleep cycle into an absolute waking nightmare. It's basically a massive system error. It all starts with REM sleep. That's the rapid eye movement phase where we have our most vivid dreams. Now, to stop you from physically acting out your dreams, like jumping out of bed and hurting yourself, your body does something brilliant. Step 1, it completely paralyzes your major muscle groups. But in an episode of sleep paralysis, step 2 happens. Your mind wakes up prematurely, your eyes open, you're conscious, but step 3 kicks in. The muscle atonia, those paralysis hormones, well, they are still active. They haven't worn off yet, so your body is a frozen prison. And then the grand finale, step 4. Because you are awake, paralyzed, and completely vulnerable, your hypervigilant brain absolutely hits the panic button. It literally hallucinates a threat in the room to explain why you're feeling so terrified.
And that intense threat detection, that happens right here, in what we call the amygdala overdrive. The amygdala is a tiny, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, and it is your primary threat detection center. It's the ultimate alarm system of the human mind. During an episode of sleep paralysis, functional brain imaging actually shows that the amygdala becomes wildly hyperactive. It is furiously interacting with the thalamus and the brainstem, basically screaming, "Red alert, we are trapped, there must be a predator in the room." But there is no predator. So, since your eyes are open but your brain is still partially stuck in a REM dream state, your mind simply projects a physical manifestation of that terror into the physical room. It takes the normal, boring shadows in the corner of your bedroom and it shapes them into a monster, a demon, or a man wearing a vintage hat. Your brain is literally painting a nightmare onto reality in real time.
So what actually causes this neurological misfire in the first place? Why does it happen to some people and not others? Well, the concrete triggers for all this darkness are actually surprisingly ordinary. On the psychological side of things, we have extreme daily stress, emotional trauma, and notably conditions like PTSD and severe anxiety. If your brain is stressed during the day, it's stressed at night. On the physiological side, it's largely about how you treat your body. We're talking severe sleep deprivation, irregular sleep schedules, like if you do a lot of shift work, and, fascinatingly, the supine sleeping posture. That means sleeping completely flat on your back. It's wild, but if you are super stressed out, exhausted, and you fall asleep flat on your back, you are effectively setting the perfect stage to conjure a shadow person in your bedroom tonight.
Now take a look at this staggering statistic on the screen. Between 8% and 50% of the entire human population will experience sleep paralysis at least once in their lifetime. And around 5% of people experience it regularly, like it's just a normal part of their week. Really think about that scale for a moment. If you are sitting in a room with 10 people right now, the odds are very, very high that at least 1 or 2 of them have woken up completely paralyzed in the dark, convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a demonic entity in the room with them. It is not an anomaly, it is not rare, it is a remarkably common human experience driven completely by our shared, fragile biology.
Let's look even closer at the specific chemistry of this trap. This is the exact chemical cocktail responsible for your temporary paralysis. The big players here are GABA and glycine. These are inhibitory neurotransmitters. During REM sleep, they essentially flip the master switch off on your motor neurons down in your spinal cord, which completely suppresses your voluntary movement. you can't lift a finger. Meanwhile, your sleep-on and sleep-off neurons, driven by chemicals like acetylcholine and serotonin, are drastically out of balance. So you are quite literally caught in a chemical crossfire inside your own nervous system. The brain receives conflicting signals, trapping you in this terrifying hybrid twilight state where the dream world and the waking world violently collide.
Okay, you might be saying, that explains waking up paralyzed. But what if you see a shadow person when you are completely wide awake just walking around your house in the middle of the day? Well, science has a fascinating explanation for that too, and it brilliantly illustrates just how fragile our perception of reality truly is. Consider this incredible study known as the electric shadow experiment, conducted by Swiss neurologist Dr. Olaf Blank. He was studying a 22-year-old patient who was being evaluated for epilepsy. Dr. Blank applied very low-level electric currents to specific regions of her brain, specifically the left temporoparietal junction. Immediately, the woman reported sensing a dark, shadow person standing right behind her. When the doctor turned the current off, the shadow vanished. When he turned it back on, the shadow returned, and it even began mimicking her own physical movements. The electrical stimulation caused her brain to misinterpret her own body's signals, effectively projecting a hostile, shadowy duplicate of herself into the room. It was her own presence, delayed and projected by an electrical glitch.
And this brings us to a really fascinating psychological concept, cultural priming. As paranormal investigators themselves have sometimes asked, and I love this quote, what if these things are solely created because they are thought to exist? Let's go back to our fedora-wearing friend. Why does the Hat Man wear a fedora? Why not a backwards baseball cap or a beanie? Well, think about history. In the Victorian era, people consistently hallucinated weeping women or hags because that aligned perfectly with the cultural ghost stories and fears of their specific time. Fast forward to the 20th century, as corporate culture emerged and shadowy men in suits and fedoras became symbols of unseen authority, government agents, and sometimes deep anxiety, the hallucination naturally evolved into the Hat Man. Our brains are essentially downloading societal tropes, movies, and pop culture fears, and then using them as prepackaged avatars for our physiological panic. We see exactly what our culture tells us we should be afraid of.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, let's put it all on the table and juxtapose the myth and the reality. On one side, we have the ancient, terrifying folklore, demonic visitations, interdimensional beings, and negative spiritual entities feeding on our terror in the dark. On the other side, we have the cold, hard science, disrupted REM sleep architecture, neurochemical misfires of GABA and glycine, and the amygdala going into absolute overdrive due to stress. But here is the single most important takeaway I want you to leave with today. Even though the science clearly tells us these ghosts are just neurochemical misfires, the physiological terror is 100% real to the person experiencing it. The suffocating weight on the chest, the wildly beating heart, the sheer panic, your body honestly does not know the difference between a real monster in the room and a chemical glitch in the brain. So the fear is entirely valid.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. We've seen today how just a simple delay in a few neurochemicals and an overactive amygdala can literally create demons out of thin air, demons that feel solid enough to touch and heavy enough to crush the breath right out of you. It turns out the ultimate haunted house isn't an abandoned, creepy mansion on a hill somewhere. No, it is the 3 pounds of wet, incredibly complex chemistry sitting right inside your skull. If our own minds can conjure the ultimate monster just from a bad day at work, a little bit of stress, and sleeping on our backs, what else is our brain hiding from us in the dark? Thank you for exploring the shadows with us today. Sleep tight, try to stay off your back tonight, and we'll see you in the next explainer.